So, welcome everyone, and Happy New Year, and Happy New Decade. I know that a lot of you out there are, setting up your New Year's resolutions. There's probably a bunch of you that want to lose weight. There may be some of you that really want to make a commitment to getting into the gym and pumping up and building up and doing all that sort of thing. And there are a number of you that want to heal different diseases and issues. And so what I'd like to do is address those things from the point of view of mitochondria. Because mitochondria are these amazing little bacteria, actually, that live inside of our cells that produce ATP. And all you need to think of when you think of mitochondria is that what they produce is the source of energy in our bodies to an incredible extent. So many people think that if they're tired it's because their adrenals aren't giving them energy, but that's actually been debunked by a number of scientists. It's fascinating. If you have chronic fatigue, if you're tired, what we need to do is support your mitochondria, and then your adrenals will work just fine. But it's not your DHEA and cortisol levels that are the most important part of your energy. It's your mitochondria. Now, if you studied cell biology when you were in school, typically when they draw a picture of the cell, there's this funny little squiggly thing in it called a mitochondria. And so most people think there's only one mitochondria in a cell. Your brain has as many as 10,000 mitochondria in every cell. And your heart, a very similar amount. Your muscles, not quite as much. There is one type of cell in the body that has 100,000 mitochondria per cell. And that, my friends, is an ovum, because it's responsible for producing new life. Our mitochondria are so important. I mean, they have such intense ramifications for the functioning of every single cell of our body. The only part of our body that's not energized by mitochondria is your red blood cells. Everything else needs mitochondria to function well. One way that we can profoundly impact the amount of mitochondria that we produce is through exercise. So exercise is incredibly important. And for those of you who are up there in your 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, there is nothing more important than preventing sarcopenia or muscle loss. It's the most important thing for the quality of your life. And for those of us who want to be more dynamic and have more energy and more mental clarity and everything else, exercise is profoundly important. And to keep this particular talk in a decent amount of time, I'm not going to get into all the specifics about how to exercise for mitochondrial strength. But we are going to be looking into making available a special mitochondrial summit for you all, where there is really incredible scientific information by the researchers who have done the work on all these different methods that I'm going to talk about today to support your mitochondria. Now, all of us need our bodies to be releasing toxins, because toxins can poison mitochondria. And one of the ways, well, the place to start, the most foundational place to start, is we need to be pooping. And a lot of people think that it's normal to not have a bowel movement any more often than once every few days. But the truth of the matter is, in order to support the constant movement of toxins, which are part of our everyday life now to a greater and greater extent, every day practically, with more and more chemicals that are being brought into our system or into our world unbeknownst to us. So, first of all, we need to be pooping at least twice a day, ideally 3 times a day, especially if you eat 3 times a day. You should be pooping 3 times a day. And if you're not, that's the most important thing to start out with, because the things I'm going to talk to you about are things that make a profound impact on your bodies being able to release toxins effectively. And when you do that, that is profoundly important for your mitochondria to be healthy and happy. Now, the other thing is diet. Diet is really important. And most of us have a predisposition towards a particular type of diet or another. But if you want to support your mitochondria, one of the most important things we can do is have proper fats and proper proteins. Now, when I talk about proper proteins, I'm talking about animal forms of proteins. I'm not talking about pea protein. I'm not talking about soy protein. I'm not talking about the minuscule amounts of protein that you can find in vegetables. I'm talking about animal protein. So it could be from fish, and some of the best fish to support your mitochondria are going to be the cold water fish, particularly the small ones. Sardines are amazing. Another food that is really amazing, which most of us really don't know about very much, is fish eggs. And when people think fish eggs, they think of insanely expensive caviar. But there are salmon eggs that are not insanely expensive. And salmon eggs are like a supplement. So it's not that you need to sit there and eat a whole jar, although some people crave them and love them. But you can have a teaspoon a day and take them like a supplement. And they are profoundly supportive to not only your mitochondria, but to your nourishment of your minerals and all of that. So chicken eggs are fabulous as well. In particular, there's all of this great choline in the egg yolk, which is especially, these need to be pasture-raised chickens. You want to see a nice orange yolk, because otherwise the choline won't be there. If they're not eating real things, they don't have what they need to make a healthy baby. So there's another amazing concept, and it's called eating nose to tail when we eat animals. And most people don't think about that. We think of proteins as only eating muscle meat. We don't think of it as eating organs. We don't think of it about using hooves or the skin to make collagens. But like one of my dear friends is from England, and she was here last night when I was giving a talk. And they eat organ meats all the time. They love kidney pie. They love heart. They eat brains. And then the Mexican people do a lot with the intestines. And there's so many cultures that have been wise about this and continued to, and tongue, absolutely. Hooves are great for making collagen soups. They're the best. So whether it's chicken feet, or whether it's pig feet, or if you can get your hands on hooves from cows or ruminants, it's all fabulous. But anyway, organ meats is the way to go. And if you think about it, when our ancestors would kill an animal, they ate everything. And particularly, we have all the stories in the Native American world about, killing the buffalo. And there wasn't anything that was left out. They used the sinews for thread to sew things. They used the hides to keep themselves warm and to create their buildings, their teepees. And they ate all the organs. They would ferment different parts of the body. And as strange as it seems, the Eskimos are notorious for having what some people call high meat, where they'll bury meat in the ground for as long as a month or 2 months and have it totally fermented. And to the point where most of us, if we smell it, it could make us retch. but the Eskimo children get excited like it's a candy bar. And everybody seems to love it, and it gives mental clarity and also deep emotional peace. There was a character who I spent a fair amount of time with named Agenus Vonderplanitz, and that was a very profound part of his healing from autism and a seemingly impossible type of cancer to cure. And the high meat that he experienced with the Eskimos became a profound part of his healing and what he used to help many people heal from their diseases. So I'm not recommending that you eat high meat. I tried it, I just couldn't do it, but my partner at the time, he was a chiropractor, he would eat some every day. And but we ate raw meat and raw cream and raw eggs, and he also had us eating raw honey. One of the things that we encourage, and one of the things that really supports your mitochondria, and by supporting you being in ketosis, is to intermittent fast. So you can do that with whatever your natural healthy diet is. But what we found is that the most effective way, other than doing long, prolonged water fasts, to increase ketosis is to eat a diet that's rich in saturated fats. So that includes things like fermented cod liver oil, butter, ghee, duck fat, lard, tallow. All of those fats really are beneficial, and we need to build up our liver and gallbladder function so that we can handle those fats and be able to eat more and more of them. Because if you're like most people who have been educated that carbohydrates and a low-fat diet should be the majority of your food, you have basically bought into a diet that will feed parasites, feed cancer, feed diabetes, more than anything else you could possibly do. Especially since the primary way they're supporting you to have grains is in cereals. And cereals basically are neurotoxic if they are in any other form than just the whole grain itself. And the whole grain itself is loaded with lectins. So I'm going to diverge just a tiny bit here. Plants have been on this planet longer than any other thing. And they're not stupid. They just can't communicate to us in a way that we understand. And they do care about protecting their species. And the way that they do that is by producing their own pesticides, insecticides, to prevent insects from eating them. I am working with these amazing products that are based on the 3 primary elements that all life is made of: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And they are, everything in them is bonded to fulvic acid. A few have humic acid because humic acid pulls things into the gut. But fulvic has the capacity to enter into cell walls and to enter into the mitochondria through the membranes, first of the cells and then the membranes of the mitochondria. And if some mineral is missing, so my mineral product that I'm taking can go into any cell, and it can, if something is missing, bring that mineral into it, and if there's something toxic in it, it can take it out. So it operates as both like a delivery system, your own personal, like UPS or something, bringing you packages of what you need and placing them where you need them, and also like the trash collectors, pulling out the trash. And it can do this in the bloodstream, and it can do this in the intestines. Just to give you a little idea, very rarely do I find a product that I really personally see a big difference with right away. But that clearly happened with these. Since I was very, very young, probably from the abuse of a lot of antibiotics, I have had loose stool or even diarrhea. When I started taking these products after just about a week, I had no more diarrhea. And that has been one of the biggest shocks for me. The other thing that I noticed is that when toxins were really moving, like I was feeling some real discomfort in my shoulder, and I went and took a binder, and of course I know how to muscle test myself, and I did that, and figured out which one to take, and within a few minutes, that discomfort was gone. And the same thing when I felt it in my head. Honestly, I'm pretty sure I have some type of microscopic organism in my brain, and that from time to time will profoundly affect my memory and stability with my balance. And so when I took the binder, it was immediately cleared up. So that's the kind of thing I can help you with. I can help you know exactly how much you need to take, how to fine-tune you if you have a symptom. The first fulvic acid products I was using started about 30 some odd years ago. There was somebody who was a veterinarian, agronomist kind of person who was working with huge herds for many big companies. And he discovered when he put fulvic acid in the water that their herds didn't get the same diseases that everybody else's herds were getting. And then they started working with bonding fulvic acid to different things. And then Dr. Drucker Labs, I've been carrying his Intramax and Intramin for a long time. And one of the things that my husband, Dr. Massey, has been doing for years is IV chelation. But when he looked at the results of people using fulvic acid products and building them up higher and higher and higher, he had the same benefits from doing the fulvic acid products as from doing the IVs. And that was pretty amazing because doing IVs are extremely expensive. And by working with fulvic acid products properly, the right fulvic acid products, you can do amazing things. So fulvic acid basically comes from these places on the earth where dinosaurs and enormous plants died in huge numbers with a cataclysmic event, and their bodies have been in the earth for thousands of years. And it made an incredibly rich soil. Most of us know about humus, this beautiful black rich soil. Fulvic acid is a byproduct of humate, which is taken from humus. And different locations on the earth have different qualities of humus, and then ultimately fulvic acid. And we have a number of fabulous locations in the United States where people are able to pull very high quality humate to make extraordinary levels of fulvic acid. But you do need a chemist who really knows what they're doing. And some new technology has allowed, and when I say new, I mean 30 years old, has allowed different chemists who are really deeply into this to bond specific humics to specific nutrients or herbs so that they are able to be taken right into the specific herbs or nutrients, right into the mitochondria, right into the cell, or cross the blood-brain barrier. And currently, one of the companies that I work with is about a year into doing an Alzheimer's study with over 100 people with severe Alzheimer's disease with their FULVIC products. It's really exciting. I mean, we can literally help to regenerate our cells, and we can't get much deeper than that on the physical level of the body to be able to affect everything. But if we're going to affect our cells, we need to make sure that we can get rid of the toxins that the system is moving out. So that pooping is really important. After pooping comes liver and kidney function. So once we know that you're pooping, then we need to effectively work with supporting your liver and your kidney function so that we know that all of the things that those do for us, like the liver breaks down all kinds of toxins. The liver is also profoundly involved with our blood sugar. The liver is also profoundly involved with our hormone production through, I mean, it's just, and we can get into the important individual aspects of all of that, because that we could talk about for hours, how that happens. And the kidneys actually take metabolites of all of these toxins, and they are dumped out through the urine. So we need to have both of those working for us really well. And then after those are working well, then we can go to the lymphatic system, because the lymphatic system also utilizes the liver and the fluid parts of the body, the kidney, to release its toxins. So you see what we're doing? We're starting at the foundation to make sure that we are getting what we need. Now, while we're doing that, we can take things to upregulate our mitochondria. Why? Because the mitochondria actually is going to give energy to the intestines. The mitochondria is going to give energy to the liver and to the kidneys and to your lymphatic system. So that will help them in their getting stronger and doing their job well. So we can take, at the same time, mitochondrial support, and we can take at the same time fulvic-based minerals that will support your body in getting your minerals. And we can also take fulvic-based oxygen products that are balanced with carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So a lot of people these days are buying special hydrogen tablets for energy. But those people are finding, when they try the oxygen fulvic product, that it has more hydrogen in it than the hydrogen tablets, and it's balanced with oxygen and carbon, all three of which need to work together in order to support the health of your body. So it's pretty amazing the profound benefits you can get from that. And then, after we get those things happening, then we are ready to go into working with parasites. Now, the interesting thing is, alternative doctors are beginning to recognize everywhere that even the wonderful DNA tests to look for our parasites are not able to show us what parasites are way up in the body that are being held by parts of the feces that are not coming out in the stool sample, or in other parts of the body, like liver flukes and brain flukes and sinus flukes and lung flukes and heart flukes and all of that. So it appears that, as uncomfortable as the idea is, pretty much all of us have parasites. If you have animals, you can be certain. If you like to walk barefoot, there's many that come in through our feet. But we all have to breathe. So if you are around friends that have parasites, they can breathe them out. We can get them in our nose. Most of us at this point are suffering because of our lifestyle and all the toxins so much that getting rid of parasites is a very important thing, and it seems to be really important to do before we address these orders are so important in being comfortable and being effective with what we're doing. It seems really important to deal with parasites before we deal with heavy metals, before we deal with bacteria and virus, before we deal with chemicals. And the reason for that is parasites seem to eat those things. They also seem to eat sugars and carbohydrates. And so they are helping us by absorbing and eating all of these nasty, toxic things. They can even eat candida. But the problem is that they have to, their life form, they have to poop. And if they're inside our bodies, they're pooping inside of us. So what we need to do is, after we make sure that our bodies and our digestive systems working properly, and our bowels in particular are releasing stool effectively, then we want to work with parasites. With these parasite products, as strange as it sounds, almost everybody starts noticing these sticky, long strings when they take it, because it actually gets rid of two things. It gets rid of threadworms, but it also gets rid of what we call a biofilm. Biofilms are around certain parasites and around certain microorganisms to try and protect themselves from different medications or things that you may have taken or doctors may have given you to attack those parasites or attack viruses or bacteria or Lyme disease or other things in the past. And the mimosa pudica, it's so sticky, it just kind of sticks to them and pulls them out, which is pretty wild. So we start people with mimosa pudica, and if everything's good with mimosa pudica, we then move to another fulvic product, which is bound to a number of the most powerful parasitic herbs that have been used in India for thousands of years as part of the Ayurvedic tradition, and have been currently studied by scientists, chemists, researchers all over the world. And simultaneously, we use a very special form of tadka that's bonded to the fulvic acid, which upregulates your bile and liver function so that your liver and bile is in great shape to move the toxins out of the body. The liver is very important to the colon's proper function. We then start adding para-2, and most people can clear their parasites in 3 to 6 months. There are some people who need to go much higher. But once you're comfortable with these, then what's happening is the bacteria and the viruses and the chemicals that have been ingested by those parasites, we have you taking binders that are fulvic-based binders, and some are fulvic and humic-based binders, to pull those toxins that could be released by the movement of those parasites out of the body, adding in the binders for heavy metals, environmental toxins. That's a huge one. Most people have no idea how much glyphosate is happening now. Even when Roundup hasn't been used on a crop, they're using glyphosate, which is the most toxic part of the Roundup, in order to dry things really quickly to bring in their harvest, so they don't have to spend the money on expensive drying processes. And it appears that glyphosate is one of those things that nature has not figured out how to break down yet. And it's just building in our bodies, but building in our soil and building in our air and building in our water systems. This is a product that pulls glyphosate out of the body. And honestly, I believe every single one of us needs it. But we need to get to the point where we can take it and it doesn't make us sick. So that's the heavy metal and environmental toxin binder. And we also have a binder that's for viruses, radiation. Radon is extremely high here in Texas. This is one of the few products that I know of that can actually get in and pull radiation out of the body. It's been used in Chernobyl to great benefit. In fact, to the point where people are still living in Chernobyl and ingesting FULVIC products so that they can continue to live there. So radiation is huge. So is, of course, levels that are high in other forms of radiation, like cesium and strontium and things like that. So you might be able to check with the authorities in your area to find out what the levels are like where you live. But honestly, it's the sort of thing that we want to do, a cleanse of our bodies, with using these products that we help to keep our bodies in a level of being able to handle these profound molecular malevolent substances that humans have never faced before. It's just crazy that we're expecting our bodies to be able to deal with all of this when they never have before. The other thing that can make a huge difference that our mitochondria totally loves is light. Sunlight in particular, the morning sunlight. And we can also use near infrared and far infrared in places where we can't really get much sunlight. Soon I'm going to be talking to you about an extraordinary near infrared sauna that we can purchase or how to make your own. And a Faraday cage that they've created to go around it to protect you and give you a break from being in this sea of EMFs that we live in now. Because they're so harmful to our mitochondria, they are part of that mitochondrial summit that I hope to be making available to you all soon. One of the interesting things I discovered is that you can use a single bulb far infrared lamp and it will literally stop the flicker effect of unnatural lighting. So it's not a bad idea to either wear red type glasses at night or to have a red incandescent lamp, a near infrared lamp, in the room where you might be at night, where you might be having unnatural lighting that you have no control over. I think I've given you a pretty good idea of some of the basic things that you can do. I can offer you quite a bit of research on a protocol, a basic protocol that has been developed in the step-by-step way that we were talking about. First of all, making sure that you're pooping, encouraging you to shift your diet into a healthy diet and reduce the amount of toxic exposures in your life. Then moving into supporting your liver and your kidney is step number 2. All the time supporting your mitochondria and mineralization and oxygenation. Then moving into your lymphatic system, and then going into working with parasites of all different types while you're using binders. Please remember, as complex as it might sound, if we're working together, I'll be making it simple for you and individualized directly for you, because all of us are unique. If you want to do this work, call me at 512-698-7009, or better yet, text me and tell me that you're interested in looking into the mitochondrial work. There's a real benefit with working with me because I can really help fine-tune you. And I can also test you for specific things that you might need to support you because of your own unique biochemistry and needs. there may be a need for some support on other levels. So, for instance, if your blood sugar is really wonky, this will help to get to the source of why your blood sugar is wonky. Typically, it's either your diet or some subtle form of parasite or microorganism that's affecting your pancreas. So if it's not your diet, if you're really eating a clean diet and you're not eating carbohydrates as a primary part of your diet, and keeping your carbs to somewhere between 20 and 50 grams a day, and you still are having diabetic problems, then we can help to address that for you with a little bit more aggression towards the diabetes. For some people, they're ready to do other things, like saunas are amazing. Also, coffee enemas are very helpful for many people. We can decide together whether that's appropriate for you, and then different nutrients to put into your coffee enema. We can look at how you're responding. For instance, some people who are taking the mitochondrial support will feel worse right away, because why? They've just dumped a whole bunch of toxins from their body, getting more capable of moving toxins. Like when I first took it, my head started hurting. And I think it's because I honestly think I have some parasites in my brain. And after I cut way back, and then I increased it. And slowly it's been wonderful for me. Some of us may want to actually increase something far beyond what the protocol says, to push something through because you have the strength to do it, or you just have had it with the health problem that you've had. And we can talk about using homeopathics along with it. So I can help you to find the right amount for you, and the most gentle, supportive way for you to accomplish what you want to accomplish. But honestly, when we blend this with homeopathy, it is profound. And then you have somebody also to ask you, are you exercising? What have you done with your diet? What are you eating? And we can start to explore unique ways or better ways for your unique biochemistry to nourish yourself. You can also take advantage of the most up-to-date forms of testing, from blood work, nutritional blood work, titers tests for viruses, bacteria, different forms of parasite testing if you wanted to see if there are any of them that we can actually detect, and genetic forms of testing, urine testing, saliva testing, mold testing, all these sorts of things. Plus I have numerous protocols in addition to this work that I have used over the years, combining everything with homeopathics as any symptoms might arise. And then also I have an extraordinary piece of equipment called European regulation thermometry that looks at how your autonomic nervous system is responding. By doing this test at intervals, we can see at the deepest level physiologically how your body is responding to the testing. And we can also avail ourselves of my husband's work. He is an alternative medical doctor with a background in pharmacy school and also being an anesthesiologist for 10 years. So together we can really profoundly explore the most beneficial ways for you to move forward. I didn't mention the many years that I taught muscle testing and the depth of muscle testing types of technologies and a European spin on that using another piece of equipment. So without going into great detail, because I could literally write pages on the different trainings that I've done over this last 50 years, I just want you to know that you would be availing yourself of far more information and experience than just going on the website and trying to figure things out yourself. I would love to hear your comments about anything more that you might like to hear along these lines. And if you happen to be an austenite, We are looking at starting a little Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon gathering to do some practices together and look into these matters more deeply, and to do some like diet experiences and teaching and answering your questions.